Hey mama, welcome to the One Income Family Podcast. Today I want to dive into something that can be a little bit of a struggle, and those are the mistakes that we make in our budgeting. And those mistakes, they are what keep you from living a life that you want, because they keep you feeling like you are living a tight financial life, right? And that you are living paycheck to paycheck if you continue to do these mistakes, right? So I'm going to share with you what these mistakes are and what it is that you can do to tweak your habits that you already have and give you a budget that brings peace instead of overwhelm. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I do want to say that these mistakes can be the solution can be tempting to go all in on all of them, right? Because I do have 6 different mistakes and ways to help you tweak and shift them so that you can actually implement them, right? But I want you to just pick one. Pick the one that is the most difficult for you. I think that's the right way to say it. The one that just speaks to you, that you know that you need to work on, and just dive into that one first so that you don't overwhelm yourself and you don't quit before you succeed. So go grab that stroller and a yummy drink because, it's nice and warm outside, and there's so many different drinks that I would just love to drink right now. Pick your favorite and let's get to it. Do you find it hard to save or get out of debt? Are you constantly searching for ways to save money and live on a budget? Do you have big dreams only to be stopped by not sticking to your budget? Are you ready for financial freedom? Then you, mama, are in the right place. Welcome to the One Income Family Podcast, where you will learn what it looks like to budget on one income, how to partner with God in your finances, how to budget in a way that's easy to stick to, and how to cut costs and save money, all so that you can start building wealth. It is my mission to equip you with these tools so that you can live in abundance regardless of the amount in your account. Hey, I'm Molly, a budget coach for stay-at-home moms, and I know what it's like to struggle on one income. I've lived paycheck to paycheck, relied on being frugal, and failed many budgets until I learned how to budget without tracking. This has allowed my family to pay off debt and build wealth all on one income. So, if you are ready for financial freedom, then go grab that stroller, plug in those headphones, and let's get to it. So you want to stick to your budget, but you're doing all the things already. You have a budget in place, you're living a simple life, you're being as frugal as you can be, and you're cutting costs at every turn, and boy, is it exhausting. Listen, budgeting does not have to be exhausting. When you work with me, you learn how to stick to your budget using systems. Systems are the fastest way to get you sticking to your budget. They allow for automation, giving you back your time. They create habits that replace bad money habits, stopping things like overspending. They create reassurance that you have the money for the things you need, and they give you the ability to save for the things that you want. So grab yourself a budget coaching session so that I can show you how to stick to your budget faster than you ever thought possible so that you can start living in abundance. Go to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell and book your call today. That's calendly.com/Molly with a Y, B as in boy, ENELL, and I look forward to meeting you. I feel like I make mistakes all of the time, as I'm sure you do, because we are human and we aren't perfect, right? The only perfect person is Jesus. And I don't know about you, but mistakes definitely make me feel like I am not able to continue, that I need to just stop, that I shouldn't just keep pushing forward and try to figure it out. Or maybe it's hard and I don't want to keep pushing through. I don't want to keep working through the hard, right? That's what these mistakes are really something that can either continue to motivate us to figure out what's wrong, or they can stop us in our tracks and keep us from moving forward, right? And that's what I don't want you to do here. I want you to be able to keep moving forward, to be able to break through whatever these mistakes are that you have, and really just create a life and a budget that is going to help you to just build the life that you want, right? And I start this out saying that mistakes are difficult, right? Because sometimes you don't even know that you're making a mistake. Sometimes you don't even know, especially if you're at the beginning of your budgeting stage or whatever it is that you're working on, right? Anything in life, parenting, painting a house, building a house, working on vehicles. These are things that I'm currently doing in my life right now. So that's why they're coming up. But these things, like mistakes, happen everywhere in life. And if we, one, don't know what they are, we can't change them. And so I want to maybe open your eyes to maybe some of the mistakes that are going on in your budget that you can tweak and shift so that you can really be able to implement a budget that is going to bring you joy instead of overwhelm, something that's not going to be exhausting and overwhelming, but something that you can sit down, run your system, whatever it is that you do, and be happy, be joyful. Like, it's just something you sit down and do. It's not something that you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go and I have to budget, but I really just don't want to go sit down and I don't want to do it. Yeah, that's not the way I want you to be. I've been there. I still sometimes go there when I've got a lot going on in life, right? When things just keep getting thrown at you and you're like, I just don't want to know what happened to the finances because there were so many things that got off track and I don't know if I can remedy it, right? But then you have to sit down and you look at it and you realize it's not as bad as you thought it was, right? Okay, so my hope for you is that these mistakes just open your eyes to what it is that you can do to make your budget simpler and easier for you. So the first mistake that I am jumping into is that we tend to, like when our income comes in, we don't have a system in place that allows us to take care of our needs before our wants. So this is my number one rule. I have an episode previously, I will link in the show notes, but it talks about what my number one rule is for spending your money, right? And it's essentially cut out all the fluff, right? Getting down to the point is that you want to make sure that you buy your needs, you get everything bought before you start buying your wants. Then you don't have to worry about your money getting used up. You don't have to worry about whether or not you spent some bills money or you spent some money that you need for gas and groceries. Like, those are the things you want to make sure are taken care of before you start buying those things that you want, right? Okay, so that is the first one. The second mistake that I see people doing is that they rely on tracking to keep from overspending. And this is a big thing that when I created my digital cash, well, I didn't create it, but I adopted the digital cash envelope system. I realized how much easier it is to be able to track my spending and know if I'm going over budget, because then it makes it easier on me to, like, it essentially eliminates the tracking part, like simply to make sure that you're on budget, because your accounts do that for you, right? You know how much is left in your account. You know if you've spent too much, because then you can't go and buy your groceries because you decided to buy your wants before your needs, right? So it kind of all just flows together. But by splitting up your money into different accounts, it will help you know how much you have, and it will keep you from spending the money that is needed in other more important areas than just your whims that you want right then and there, right? Okay, so then the third mistake that I see is not budgeting for things that you know are coming. So these can look like your yearly expenses. It can look like maintenance and repairs on your house, on your car, on whatever. Maybe you have a bicycle. Maybe it's your phone, those kind of things. Whatever those repairs are that happen often, you need to take care of, right? Kids' activities. I see people say that they don't expect like pictures to come with children's activities, and then they want these pictures, but they don't have the finances for them. Yeah, maybe it's your first time in the sports world, but I suggest if you don't know what these expenses are, that you ask somebody. Like, for instance, I am a volleyball coach. I coach a club team in the spring. And if you were to ask me what expenses you should expect that come with playing the sport, I would tell you that obviously you have your tuition to be able to play and be on the team. There also comes, well, there was one time, I don't know if it was this last year, but there was a fee for trying out. But then that came out of your tuition, I believe. Then you have your gas expenses to go to and from the tournaments. Then you have gas expenses to go to and from volleyball practice, which is once a week. And then you have your entrance fee to get into the tournament, like all this stuff to be prepared for, the food that you're going to eat, if you're going to bring it, if you're going to buy it. I could tell you that kind of stuff. And so if you want to know what these sports entail before you get into the sport, and you want to have an idea of how much money it might cost for the entire season, then ask somebody, ask like a former player, somebody whose parents have done it multiple years so that they know what comes with it. The shoes that you might need, the knee pads, the clothing, all that kind of stuff, you'll have an idea of what you'll need, and then you can save up for it, or you can spend it in your monthly expenses if you have it, right? But by just expecting to be able to take care of this stuff in the moment, it really puts pressure on your budget. And so I really suggest having a savings account or a savings bucket, maybe one account that holds all of your savings buckets or your sinking funds, however you prefer to call it, that houses all of that so that you know where that money's at and you're able to save up for it, because that is how you are going to be able to handle these, what you call unexpected expenses. Because in all reality, when you sit down and think about it, these expenses are not unexpected. If you sit down and you look at your account and you think about every single purchase that happened, 90% of it is not unexpected. It is expected. It's just things that you didn't think of. It comes with whatever it is that you're doing, right? And so that's something that I really want you to sit down and I want you to think about. I want you to think about every aspect of whatever activity it is, what yearly expenses you have that you end up paying every single year. You can track them. Maybe go through, if you forgot, go through your subscriptions or go through your last 12 statements. I mean, that's kind of a lot of work right there, but that will tell you what your common yearly expenses are, and you'll be able to start tracking them and you'll be able to start saving up for them instead of just saying, oh, well, my car payment's here, or not my car payment, my car registration is up. I need to go and renew that, but I don't have the money for it because I didn't save up for it, right? So I don't want you to be in that position. I want you to be able to take care of those so-called unexpected expenses that are actually expected by knowing what your spending habits are, by knowing the things that you currently do on a year-to-year basis, and then decide if that's something that you want to continue to do or not. Cut it out if it's not something that actually you use. Like sometimes people buy gym memberships and it's on a yearly basis and then they forget about it. It's kind of one of those I buy and then forget, leave it and forget kind of thing. And I don't want you to forget because when that pops up and it pulls from your account, you're then put in a tight position because you didn't know that was going to happen. And sometimes you can't get refunds and it spirals from there. So make sure that you are planning for those and that you start tracking whatever those are. The fourth mistake that I see is that you create a budget that includes overtime or anything that's over what your base budget is. This creates an unrealistic expectation of how much you're going to bring in every single paycheck. And then when something happens and you don't get that overtime, you're hurting because your expenses are more than what your income is. And this shows up commonly, like in my life, when my husband has to take a day off because they don't have any work for him, because apparently that's a thing, right? Like, well, why would you hire somebody if you don't have work for them? Anyways, most of the time he gets overtime, but there are days where he doesn't get to work that day because they don't have enough work for everybody. And so his paychecks are smaller, and sometimes they are at the base amount instead of the overtime that we get. And it can be a struggle if I were to set up my budget based on how much we get in overtime. Like if I didn't sit down and think, say, okay, he is supposed to get this much an hour, and this much usually comes out for taxes and everything. So then my take home is generally around this much. I know this math can be a little confusing, so definitely reach out if you want help figuring out what your base amount is. But by figuring out what your base amount is, instead of relying on what you're getting every single paycheck, when that comes, or when you have to rely on that PTO, or you take a day off that doesn't include PTO, you're not hurting. You're not trying to figure out how you're going to make sure that things are paid for, right? And so a base budget is your best friend. I want to make sure that you understand that. Use the overtime to save up for those things that you want instead of adding it to your monthly budget. Or else be prepared to pause some subscriptions for a month or until you can get it the next paycheck, right? When you have that overtime. That is what you need to be prepared for and be able to create a system around, right? So that's one thing that I definitely suggest, that if you don't do anything else, well, other than making sure that you take care of your needs before your wants, focus on this one. Sit down and figure out what your base budget is, because that is going to make a huge difference in your overall budget. And then the fifth mistake that I see, this kind of just goes right from the base budget into you don't have a monthly budget. So before, I used to do a paycheck to paycheck style budget, right? And I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. So when a bill came in, I would pay for it out of that month or that paycheck, right? And when it got to like bigger bills like my mortgage or my car payment, it was kind of a struggle to be able to then pay for the groceries that I would need, or to take care of the gas needs that we'd need financially. And I was just like, this is just not working and I can't figure out how to do it. And then finally I figured out that a monthly budget is my best bet, because with a monthly budget, I'm able to use my base budget and create amounts that go in each category every single month. And then I just split it up every single paycheck. So that amount that goes in every single account gets set, like taken out right then and there, because it's just divided by 2, because we get 2 well, we technically get 4, but I like to do it on a bi-weekly schedule because that's the way my groceries work. And so every 2 weeks we get a paycheck, which I have in air quotes if you could see me. But that's when I distribute out our finances, is every 2 weeks, so that then we are able to like evenly put it in each account. The same amount is going every single paycheck into each account. And I figured that out with a monthly budget. And that is how we know where every single dollar is going. And then what is left over after that, I'm able to allocate into the savings accounts that it needs to go to, or towards debt that needs to get paid down. And that is what makes the system so much easier to implement, because it's not focused on trying to track your finances and trying to figure out where everything goes, but it's focused on a monthly budget that then gets separated into each account. Like, you don't have to sit down and write out a monthly budget every single time. Like, no, this monthly budget is like a one and done kind of thing until you change up your lifestyle. Maybe you need to change up your categories. That is essentially what it is an allocation of your categories over the month, like what you typically spend over a month cycle, right? And that has been my best friend. If you want more on this, I have another episode for like the budget system. And I know I have one for like the monthly system. So I'll look for those two and definitely link them in the show notes as well for you to listen to. But then moving into the sixth mistake, and that is not budgeting for fun. So this is how you can challenge yourself to be frugal, leaving yourself with more fun money, right? So what I'm talking about by not budgeting for the fun, for the wants that you want to have, then you're just going to spend everything that you have on the things that you need, and you're not going to have any fun money, right? And you're going to be feeling like you're stressed and like you're poor, and you're going to have like a scarcity mindset because you just don't have enough money to go out and do the fun things that you want to do. But by budgeting for fun, even if it's $10 a paycheck, is going to make a huge difference, because then you're going to be like, ooh, maybe I can challenge myself to be more frugal and have more money left over, so then I can put more money towards the things that I want to do. Like, still separate out money into your savings account as you can, right? Because you don't want to leave that out and spend everything on your wants right then in the moment. But giving yourself a little bit of spending money, an allowance per se, is going to keep you from feeling like you're living tight. It's going to keep you from feeling like you can't buy anything that you want to buy, and it has to be everything for the family, and it has to be everything for everyone else, and I have to sacrifice my needs and my wants for everyone else, right? We don't want that for you. We want you to try to figure out how to challenge yourself to spend less on maybe your needs because you're being more frugal, and buy the things that you want and still be frugal so that you can like get more of the things that you want. But it challenges yourself to be able to get that stuff. Maybe that coffee. Maybe you don't know if you're able to get a coffee, and you go to Walmart, you get everything that you need, you're able to spend less than you need, and you have money left over for a coffee run, right? And maybe some treats for your kids as well. And so that is the fun, that's the excitement, that's like the celebration, the treating yourself for doing a good job. Now, don't get too focused on that, right? We don't want to make it feel like because you weren't frugal enough, or because prices went up and you had to sacrifice a little bit of more spending money, that you did a bad job financially, because that is not the case. But it's still a fun little challenge to see how much money you can save and how frugal you can be, so that you can celebrate and go get that coffee if that's something that you want. Okay, so those are the 6 mistakes that I have came up with. There are many more, and I could probably do another whole episode, or 5 probably, on mistakes, but I don't want to focus on the mistakes. I just want you to just maybe have your eyes opened to some of the things that could be done differently, so that you can really create a budget that, again, is going to bring an abundancy to your life of joy instead of stress and overwhelm, because that's not what I want for you. So I'm going to recap what those mistakes are. So that is 1, buying your wants before your needs, because that is going to cause you to use money that you don't have, right? 2, rely on tracking to keep from overspending. Create a digital cash envelope system, friend. It is going to be a game changer because it eliminates the tracking. Don't rely on tracking simply to stay on budget. There are other better ways to do it. 3, Not budgeting for the things that you know are coming. Figure out what those yearly expenses are. Figure out what the maintenance is that you do consistently or you need to do consistently, like oil changes, right? Figure out what every financial piece is for a kid's activity or for an activity that you do so that you're not surprised about things that come up, what we feel like are out of nowhere, but we just didn't know were part of the activity, right? Mistake number 4 is creating a budget that includes overtime. Create a budget based on your base budget. What is the lowest amount that you will bring in? Create a budget based off of that. 5, not having a monthly budget. Create a monthly budget, a recurring monthly budget. This is simply just a simple way of splitting up your money into each category and then being able to divvy it out equally out of each paycheck instead of having to live paycheck to paycheck where you're relying on whether you're able to make money or you're able to pay a bill or not, right? We don't want to be living that way. That is stressful. It's overwhelming, and you then aren't sure of whether or not you're going to have money for your wants and or your needs, right? We want to make sure that your needs are taken care of. Okay. Point number 6, not budgeting for fun. This is the thing that I challenge you. It's just kind of a fun one that I put in there. But one of the things that we feel on a one income is that we feel tight, we feel poor, we feel like we can't do the fun things. And so by challenging yourself to be more frugal, to be able to have the fun that you want to do, makes it so much easier and less stressful. Okay, so with that being said, I do want to invite you to hop on a budget coaching session with me because that is going to help you be able to set all this up quickly and simply. But if that's not something that you want to do and you want to set it up by yourself, by all means have at it. However, I do suggest getting help somewhere, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, maybe it's somebody in your church, right? Just ask for help so that you're not doing this alone, because when you try to budget alone and you try new things on your own, it's hard to have that accountability and it's hard to continue to push yourself forward by yourself. I know I do it all the time and I'm starting to change that by getting the help that I need, right? So if you would like to grab a budget coaching session with me, you can go to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell. That's calendly.com/Molly with a Y, B as in boy, ENELL. And I look forward to working with you and helping you get through this and set up a budget that is going to bring you joy and life instead of being stressful and overwhelming and just take the life from you and your family, right? Because when you're stressed, everyone's stressed. So again, you can go to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell to grab that budget coaching session. And with that being said, I will meet you right back here next week on another One Income Family podcast episode. Before you go, I hope this episode has ignited a fire inside of you, and I pray that it creates long-lasting impact. Did you know that you too can impact other one-income families? All you have to do is leave a written review and you help get the podcast in the hands of other mamas in need. You can also text this episode to that friend who is also knee-deep in the same kind of chaos as you and inspire them to make a change. Also, your review lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and that lights me up. I get so excited to hear from you. Another great way that we can connect, though, is through the One Income Family community over on Facebook. So after you're done leaving that 5-star review, head on over to the community where you will find other mamas working their way out of the chaos. You can ask your questions and connect with others who truly understand what you are going through. I cannot wait to connect with you in the community. Until then, I will see you right here next week on another episode of the One Income Family podcast.